We got Rhodes reporting that the Chicago Bulls and Sacramento Kings are in active trade talks around one DeMar DeRozan. We're going to play the clip. We're going to talk about it, what it could mean, all that and more right after this.
Tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
I see red, I see red, I see red, I see red, yeah, I see red, I see red, I see red, I see.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Sir Haize. More importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content. So we're going to start off this, like we don't usually do this to start off with, but we're going to start it off this way here. I'm going to play a clip from Woj, and then we'll discuss it.
Well, certainly, I think DeMar DeRozan has played his last game for the Chicago Bulls. The one team that's been dug in with him and trying to find a sign-and-trade scenario, the Sacramento Kings, they've been talking this week, and they're going to need a third team involved in a sign-and-trade. Chicago, while they certainly are willing to facilitate helping DeMar DeRozan get more than the mid-level exception on a team that doesn't have cap space, they don't want to take back contracts, or certainly significant contracts. They'll need a third team to route a bigger salary to. But those conversations continue. And listen, I think there are some other scenarios for DeMar DeRozan, but I think Sacramento right now is the team to watch between now and as the moratorium ends here over the next 24, 40.
All right. So as you heard there from Woj, this is the saying that the Sacramento Kings and Bulls have discussed signing trades. Now, he also does say in that, and I want to be clear that other teams could get involved, but this is going to be a deal that would, and we've talked about this before, that would have to involve a third team. The Bulls can't even take back Kevin Huerter's contract for DeMar DeRozan without either sending a Javon Carter or Torrey Craig, something like that. Now, if the Bulls' target is Kevin Huerter, which has been rumored and things like that, if that is the case, then the Bulls could try to incentivize by sending a Torrey Craig, sending a Javon Carter to try to get Kevin Huerter back. But with the Bulls right now, they have a little bit less than $14 million beneath the luxury tax, so they can exceed that. They've hard capped themselves. So if a sign and trade is going to happen with the Chicago Bulls, it either means that the Bulls are going to have to send an additional player to open up some space, or they're going to reroute the player to a third team and only take back some type of draft capital, something like this. So that's what it could be when it comes down to it. I just wanted to be very clear and transparent. There have been a lot of people asking, like, where are the sources? Where are these things coming from? Woj is one of the best sources that you can say. He's still not 100%. In no way am I saying that what Woj says should be taken as gospel, because it shouldn't. At this point, it's a very fluid situation that nobody quite knows exactly what's happening. But with that said, Woj is a very well-respected source. He typically doesn't report on anything that he hasn't legitimately heard, believe, and it's going to sign and trade DeMar DeRozan to the Kings, but it is saying that those talks are engaged and that the Kings right now should be viewed as the front runner to land DeMar DeRozan. So this could mean a couple of different things for the Chicago Bulls. It could mean that they are going to get somebody that they've reportedly been interested in Kevin Huerter, or we did hear late last night as well that the Bulls do not want to take contracts back in the sign and trade for DeMar DeRozan, which could make some sense because they only have one roster spot open. So if they do take a player back, that would fill up their roster. Now, in the scenario that we're painting here, if the Bulls are sending DeMar DeRozan and a Torrey Craig, or DeMar DeRozan and a Javon Carter, that would mean that they can absorb another player while still holding that last open roster spot. In the potential that they do make another deal, they need some flexibility. So that's where things sit right now for the Chicago Bulls. This is again the kind of the latest in a saga of DeMar DeRozan, kind of, just talking about where DeMar DeRozan could go. He's basically the best free agent left on the board, and so because of that, it's natural to expect the talks to kind of gear more towards DeMar DeRozan as this free agency goes on, and as he still does not have a home, and so it makes sense. Now, as teams have seen kind of all him and Miles Bridges are probably the best free agents left on the market, I would say. And so as teams are kind of looking to fill in their last spots of the roster, make their final decisions, it's natural now that DeMar DeRozan will be more at the forefront than what he's been earlier in this offseason. So take that for what you will. The fact that it is when it comes down to the Kings possibly wanting to add DeMar DeRozan. I don't know if I fully understand the fit on the court, but that's something for the Kings to worry about, not us. And so we'll end up seeing what comes to it. Corey, you are definitely drinking with that trade. I see you in there, my boy. You are tripping. Lay off the fent early in the day. Like, you got to lay off that fentanyl early in the day, my boy. But just some little jokes toward Corey there. But so this is the latest. And you guys know when news drops, we drop. And so I wanted to bring this news here. And, if the Kings ultimately are involved with DeMar DeRozan talk, it shouldn't surprise anybody. The Kings and the Bulls have been talking trades almost for a year now, off and on. So they kind of are already familiar with what each other would be interested in. The Kings know what players that they have that the Bulls have some interest in. So if this is something that the Kings are sure about doing, I would not expect it to take very long. We could get the answer as early as today. I was hoping that this wouldn't go as into the weekend. It could very well, especially with the holiday kind of maybe limiting some things. But if DeMar DeRozan, I'm sure he wants to also know his destination as soon as possible. Spurs have still been a team that's been rumored as being interested. The Miami Heat have been in and out of those talks reportedly as well. So, watch out as that goes along. But, the Kings are in California, not back in LA where he reportedly wants to be, but maybe close enough to where DeMar DeRozan feels comfortable about going there, at least for 1 year as he recoups his value. So we'll see what comes down with that. But ultimately, I think that this DeMar situation is I would not be surprised if we have a resolution on this by Monday. Now, I want to make sure that resolution may not include the Chicago Bulls. There's a complete world in which the Kings try to get this done without having to do a sign and trade with the Bulls, especially if the Bulls are hesitant to take contracts back. They could try to do that by trading off other assets and signing DeMar a different way. So that is still an option, but keep a lookout for how the Chicago Bulls get involved in this type of sign and trade to try to recoup any assets back that they can get. So let's see how you guys are feeling about this. Hi, Haize. Best regards from Switzerland. Thank you for supporting all the way from over in Switzerland. I appreciate the hell out of everybody from overseas that supports, man. Let's see what else we got. I wonder what would Philly have interest in taking Torrey Craig since they still trying to fill out their roster. I don't know how that implicates their salary cap situation in signing mostly minimum contracts. I mean, Torrey Craig is a vet minimum contract, so theoretically, but it's different when you acquire one. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. We haven't really heard anything as far as Torrey Craig, anything like that, but we'll see. We'll see. What's my schedule for the live? I don't have any schedule. I go live when news drops. That's what the schedule is. We have heard Zach to the Kings all this time, only for it now to be to DeMar. I mean, that's the thing, though, is that the Kings may have very well thought, hey, we're going to be priced out of DeMar DeRozan, or they could have had Zach LaVine on their board. They end up signing Malik Monk, and they could look at it now and saying, hey, we can acquire DeMar DeRozan for less money, less long-term implications as well. We got Malik Monk to help stretch the floor with shooting threes, things like that. DeMar isn't really a three-point shooter, but maybe there's a world in which they look at having both those things. So wouldn't be surprised at that one for sure. So DeRozan 4 Fox? Hell no. Like, come on. What are we doing here? Dual sprint definitely. Well, no, DeMar is off the books. Right now, the Bulls could walk away from this and not touch DeMar DeRozan and tell him to figure it out on his own. DeMar DeRozan is not a Chicago Bull. He is a unrestricted free agent. They don't have the space to bring him back. So the only reason why the Bulls are still involved in this is because teams, to get DeMar what they want, would have to work out a sign and trade. And so that's where the Bulls enter back in at. But no, DeMar DeRozan is off the roster and he's not coming back. So there's no worry about that being the thing anymore. Any shot they buy Zach out? No, there's no chance that they're buying Zach out. None. It's way too many years, way too much money. Zach has no incentive to give up any money in a buyout. There's zero chance that they buy out Zach LaVine. AA's from the Dells in my July 4th vacation. Hopefully we get a Debo trade done soon. I mean, we'll see. That's why I said that a DeMar DeRozan resolution could be coming soon, and that resolution doesn't have to include the Bulls. There's a complete possibility that it includes something else. So sign and trade with the Spurs, Uno reverse card that shit. Well, the thing is that the Spurs have enough money to sign them outright, so they wouldn't need a sign and trade. So that's what it comes down to. The new salary cap rules have been good for spreading talent out across the league, but bad for DeMar and Zach trying to find new teams. Absolutely. Long time no see. This trade doesn't really make sense, but once this trade makes a lot of sense, that doesn't make any sense. And Vooch is probably not going anywhere, and it's not going for Nick Claxton. Like Nick Claxton already signed his deal. Like, do you just come in here to present things that you try to do in 2K without paying attention to what's happened in the league? Nick Claxton signed. He can't be traded anytime soon. So the Bulls definitely aren't trading Nikola Vucevic to go for Nick Claxton. Stop the fentanyl. Y'all gotta stop the fent, bro. Like lay off. I've heard that they got the Sprint, the fentanyl suckers now. So motherfuckers, you can't even tell if a motherfucker's eating candy or getting high. Y'all gotta lay off the fentanyl. Lay off the fent. Let it go. Lay off the fent. These new. I already read that one. Shout out to Thomas. How would stretching Lonzo affect the assets the Bulls can take back in a potential DeMar DeRozan signing trade? Well, it could open some cap space, but stretching them would be stupid at this point. Why stretch out a contract over 3 years to pay when he just expires at the end of the year? That's why I think that that's the reason why we heard earlier in the free agency that the Bulls are looking to dump Lonzo Ball's contract, because waiving stretching at this point really makes no sense. Last season, it would have made some sense. This season, it really doesn't make any sense to waive and stretch Lonzo Ball, because you're spreading out $20 million over 3 years, where and you're gaining short-term flexibility for the now for affecting your long-term flexibility when you may need that long-term flexibility. So why waste it on a wave and stretch for Lonzo Ball is what I would think. But again, this is the Bulls. So Haize, can they give Zach the John Wall treatment, just send him home to not wreck team chemistry? No, because unfortunately there's been new rules since then. Remember, the rules to sit players has started since then. And so I highly doubt that that's the case. Plus, at this point, if Zach LaVine is still on the roster, it's more beneficial to hold on to him to recoup some value, at least in my opinion. So Franz Wagner got a 5-year, $270 million contract. Shout out to Franz Wagner, bro. Shout out to Franz. I know Stacey King is kicking somebody right now. That's crazy. Fentanyl lollipops is wild, bro. But all right, y'all. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in to this random live stream during the day. The fact that almost 500 of you guys are in here live during the middle of a workday. Maybe some of you guys are off from the holiday. I appreciate you guys so much. You guys already know if news drops, we drop. That's what we see when it comes down to it, man. I love you guys. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We have passed 19,000 subscribers today. We're on our way to 20,000 subscribers. We need 1,000 more subscribers. I'm sure it can happen by this off season. Let's get to 20K before the start of the season. But I love you guys. Go Bulls. See red, y'all. And I'm sure you'll be seeing my face